Hello, everyone. My name is Logan. I am here with Tyler. We are both part of the client operations team here at Thunder. I am part of the client services team. You may know me from if I've given your team a training at some point in the past, or if maybe you've chatted with me at some point. Tyler is on our production design crew. He works on building really cool and complex ads for our various clients. He is here to show you all how to make really cool, really slick, and complex ads really easily. Please, if anybody has any questions about anything, please save it till the end, write it in the questions tab. We will get to it at the end. We'll have a whole section devoted to questions at the end. And yes, we will just about get started here. I will transfer over to Tyler, and I hope you guys find this really helpful and informative. And without further ado, I will turn this over to Tyler.
Thank you, Logan. Welcome, everybody. My name is Tyler, and I'm a designer here at Thunder. Today, we'll be covering some different tips, tricks, and best practices within the Thunder editor. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat at any time, and I can cover those questions at the end. Today, we'll be building out a Thunder Air creative using illustrations. Let's just go ahead and preview that creative right here. I'm going to bump this up a little bit. All right, so you can see we got some clouds that kind of slide out of the way. We have some different destinations that kind of fade in and fade out. We have the plane that slides off and our CTA text. And you'll notice if I hover over this ad that the Book Now button kind of bounces up and down to add a little bit of interaction. So let's just go ahead and get started. Go back to the editor. So before I get started, I just want to point out over here on the left-hand side, I have a little bit of a timeline. You can see that this is just for reference so that we know what our ad is supposed to look like at different points. I've also already uploaded all of our assets just to save a bit of time. We have our plane, all of our clouds right here. We have our logo. We have all of our text assets. And we have some different shape assets. We have our sky, our CTA button background, and we have a transparent box that we'll use to add that interaction at the end. So let's just get started. I can start by dragging my sky. We want this to cover the whole entire canvas. So if I use this expand tool up here, I can click fill canvas and it will perfectly just fill up the box. Next, we can add our back clouds. If I hold shift and drag from one of the corners, it will keep the ratio of the image, which is nice, hotkey. And we want to position this so that it kind of hangs off of the right-hand side because these clouds are going to be slowly moving to the left like this. So yeah, we want to just make sure there's enough room on the right-hand side over here. Next, we can add our middle clouds. And again, we want to hang those off the right-hand side. Next, we're going to add some of this transparent mist. And we're going to hang that off the right-hand side as well. And we're also going to change this opacity to 0.3 over here. So it's just kind of a transparent mist. Next, we're going to add our plane. We can downsize this a little bit. And if we use our align tool, we can align center and align middle. So that way we know our plane is directly in the middle of our canvas. And next, we can add our front clouds right here. And again, we want to hang these off the right-hand side. And I'm going to have it cover up the plane just a little bit so that it gives it a little bit of depth. Makes it look nice. And we'll add our opening clouds right here. We want this to cover the entire canvas, so I'm going to upsize this a bit so it covers the entire sky. And that's going to slide to the left to kind of reveal everything. And lastly, we're going to add our logo right here. And we can just position this in the bottom right corner. So now that we have this kind of laid out, we can start adding some movement. I'm going to open up the animation timeline. And you can see we have all of our layers right here. A lot of these assets are going to exist throughout the whole entire creative. So what we're going to do is grab these keyframes and extend them to the final frame right here, the 9-second mark. The sky will go all the way. The back clouds will go all the way. Middle clouds, our transparent clouds. Our plane is actually going to kind of slide off of the frame starting at the 6-second mark. So I'm just going to drag that keyframe right there. Our front clouds are going to go all the way and our logo as well. And then our opening clouds are going to kind of instantly kind of slide off of the frame. So we're going to drag that to the 1.5 second mark. And with this keyframe still selected, if I hold the shift key and just keep pushing the left arrow key on my keyboard until these clouds are all the way to the left of the stage, if I grab my scrubber, you'll see that that kind of just slides to the left to reveal everything. Whenever you're using your keys, like the arrow keys on your keyboard, if you hold shift, it will make it jump 10 pixels at a time. And if you're not holding shift, it will just be 1 pixel at a time. Oops, fix that. But yeah, that's a nice hotkey as well. So let me just fix that again. Now we want to add some more movement to our other clouds. So what I'm going to do is, we have 3 layers of clouds. We have the back clouds, the middle clouds, and the front clouds, and we want those to be moving at slightly different speeds. So what I'm going to do with these back clouds is I'm going to subtract 100 from the x-axis, so this will be negative 105. With the middle clouds up here, I'm going to subtract 150, so this is going to be negative 161. And then with our front clouds, that's going to be, I'm going to subtract 200, so this will be negative 199. And then with our transparent clouds right here, the mist, I'm going to subtract 300. So this one will be negative 338. And now if I grab my scrubber, you'll see that they all kind of move at slightly different speeds, and it gives it a nice look. All right, so now what we want to do is add these destinations over here, Honolulu and Miami. So I'm going to drag my scrubber to the 2-second mark. If I go to the text asset panel over here, I can grab Honolulu and drag it onto the stage. So I want this animation to be a little bit longer. We're going to drag it to the 3.75 second mark. Now I want this this animation for this text, I want it to kind of fade in as it's sliding to the left and then fade out. So with this keyframe selected, I'm going to hold the shift key and push the left arrow 5 times. So that way I know that it moved 50 pixels to the left. So you'll see it kind of just pops up and it's sliding to the left and then it disappears. But we want it to fade in and fade out. So 0.25 seconds into this animation, I'm going to insert a keyframe. And then 0.25 seconds before the end of that animation, I'm going to insert another keyframe. And if I select the beginning keyframe and slide that opacity down to 0, and as well as the final keyframe, if I slide that opacity down to 0, and if I grab my scrubber, you'll see it fades in as it's sliding to the left, and then it fades out. So now let's add our other destinations. If I grab my scrubber and drag it to the 2-second mark, I can go back to my text asset panel and just start adding these other texts. Just going to add them to the stage on top of each other, because we'll fix that in a second. But what I can do is with this animation on the destination 1 layer, I can click on this little menu and copy this animation, since I know they're all going to be exactly the same. And I can paste this animation to the other layers. So now if I grab my scrubber, you'll see that they all kind of fade in, slide to the left, and fade out. But we don't want them to be on top of each other. So what I can do is select these 3 layers and kind of stagger them a little bit past halfway mark so that they have time to fade in and fade out. So now you'll see Honolulu appears, Miami appears, Honolulu disappears, Los Angeles appears, Miami disappears, and then Boston appears. Kind of all in order, which is nice. Another thing you'll notice that they're all kind of the same exact size, but over here we have them at different sizes. So what I can do without affecting the animation itself, if I select this edit all toggle, I can adjust the position and the size of these texts without actually affecting the animations. So I can kind of just go and adjust these real quick. All right, so now if I use my scrubber, you'll see that they're all a little bit different sizes. And then you'll notice that that plane kind of just disappears, which we don't want. So what I'm going to do is take my scrubber to the 7-second mark, and on that plane layer, I'm going to right click and insert a keyframe. Then if I have that keyframe selected, I can hold the shift key and push the right arrow just until that plane is off of the stage. And if I move my scrubber and push this play button, you'll see that the plane kind of goes off, but it's all at a constant speed. and we want that to look a little bit more natural. So we're going to add easing. If I go to this animation and I right click on it, I can set easing right here. And we're going to set an ease in of expo. So you'll see it gives a little preview of what it should look like. It starts off slowly and then it shoots off the page. So if I do that and I grab my scrubber, you'll see that it shoots off the page. It's a little bit more natural movement. Once the plane is off of the stage, we want our CTA text down here to kind of appear. So I'm going to drag my scrubber to the 7-second mark. And I'm going to start adding these texts. Just going to throw them on the stage. And then once I have them all there, I can use the edit all toggle again to adjust the position and size of these. So now that they're all there, I'm going to click the edit all toggle so that I can quickly adjust these. And using the align tool, we can make sure everything is perfectly centered. If you select two items at once, they're going to align each other in relation to one another. So we can make sure this book now is perfectly aligned in the middle of this CTA background. So now we want to add some animation to these. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this Title 1 animation, we're going to drag it to be only a ½ second long. And with this, we want to select the first keyframe. We're going to hold the Shift key and push the right arrow 3 times so that it moves to the left 30 pixels. But we want it to fade in, so we're going to drag the opacity to 0. And then we want it to have a little bit more natural movement, so we're going to set the easing. We're going to do an ease out of quad. And so you'll see it kind of fades in and slides into place, but we don't want it to disappear. So what we can do is go to the 9-second mark, right click and just insert a keyframe so that it doesn't disappear. But you'll see that it slides into place and looks good. So what we're going to do is copy this animation and then paste it to the rest of these layers that we just added. Perfect. So now you'll see that they all kind of fade in and slide into place. But we want it to be a little bit more staggered, so we're going to just adjust these animations a little bit. So now you'll see they appear one at a time. So we can go ahead and preview our creative real quick. Perfect, but you'll see that there's no interaction yet, so we just need to go ahead and add that. What we can do is we need to create a custom animation real quick. So basically a quick and easy way to do this is to drag like a random shape to the stage and just adjust this animation so that we can kind of tweak it and make it custom and save it down. So what I'm going to do is I have this at a ½ second. I'm going to just increase the scale by 0.1, and then I'm going to right click on it, add easing, an ease out of quad. So you'll see that that shape just kind of grows, and that's the animation that we want. So we can go ahead and just save this animation. We'll name it CTA hover, and then we can go ahead and just delete that layer. So now what we can do is add a transparent hover box. And so basically we're going to add the action to this shape. So anytime the mouse hovers over this shape, that interaction will kind of be triggered. So we want this shape to cover the entire canvas. So I'm going to use this fill canvas button again. So now at any point of the creative, whenever I hover over it, it will trigger that interaction. So we don't want that interaction to be triggered too early. So we're going to drag this to where right here at the end, because we don't want the interaction to be able to be triggered before the button is completely in frame. So now this transparent box only exists once the book now button is completely in frame. So now if I go back, close this, go to frame 3. If I have this transparent hover layer selected, I can click on action, add mouse enter, and then I can click play effect. And then we're going to have to add some layers to animate, and which are the CTA layers, the CTA button, and add another widget and the CTA text. And so right now there's no animation and it's 1 second long. So we're going to click on this, go down to our custom animations down here, which is our CTA hover, and apply that. And if we want, we can make this 0.25 seconds long. Again, with this CTA text, we're going to do the same thing, CTA hover, and we're going to make that 0.25 seconds long. And then this little box right here, reverse on leave, it will make the button shrink back down whenever our button leaves the canvas. So we're going to check mark those and click save. So now if we preview this, so now if we hover over it, you'll see that our book now button kind of grows and then shrinks back down. And that is that's the creative. I can answer any questions that you may have. I'm gonna go see if we have any. One question we do have is, what's the difference between the blue and gray segments on the animation timeline? So if we go down here, you'll see in our animation timeline, there's a gray segment and then there's blue segments. Basically, the gray segment means that between this keyframe and this keyframe, there is no movement. There's no animation or any type of transition. So you'll see this is the logo layer. That logo stays in the same exact spot the entire time. That is why that is gray. As far as this blue one, this is the opening clouds layer. From the very start, that is sliding to the left. So from this keyframe to this keyframe, there is some type of transition, which is why there's a blue difference between blue and gray. Another question is, can you explain the edit all toggle? So the edit all toggle down here, basically, if you want to, for example, if I wanted to move my logo layer right here, if I have my scrubber at the 1.2 second mark and I try to move it, it'll create an animation, it will create a keyframe and then also create an animation. And if you wanted to move the entire thing without actually creating an animation, if you click the edit all toggle, let's say we want the logo, I don't know, over here, and then uncheck it. Now you can see that that logo stays in the same spot the entire time. It doesn't actually create any type of animation. Another question, the frame flags. These are flags right here. There's a frame 1, frame 2, and frame 3. These are actually, they are the same as these frames. And basically, actually, this is a good practice. If I go into my timeline, I can actually drag these frames to kind of show, I guess, like a better representation of what you want to see. So for example, this timeline over here, this is frame 1, this is frame 2, and this is frame 3. So now that I dragged my frame flags to kind of be in better spots, if I have my timeline closed, you can kind of see that this is a little bit better. You can see frame 1, there's the opening clouds. Frame 2, we got our destinations, and then frame 3, we have everything kind of displayed. Thank you, everyone. This is the first of a 4-part series to our Thunder webinar. We'll definitely send out some emails whenever our next webinar is coming up. But thank you, everyone, for joining, and have a good day.